It's the Playhouse Podcast with Kat and JJ.
Can't believe it. I missed everything.
Missed the show?
What am I going to do?
Check out the Daily Podcast.
It's got to be the most frustrating thing in the world to go to the doctor. Something's obviously wrong, but it takes forever for them to diagnose you. Talked about this morning and had some very surprising people join the show. If you missed it, it's coming up a little later on the podcast. Here we go.
We've got email. Getting to Grace's email because it's very fresh. My husband embarrassed me at my office Thanksgiving party on Friday by engaging in a very deep conversation with my coworker's wife. They were standing in the corner of the room, laughing and chatting for over an hour while the rest of us were eating and mingling. Never once did he come in that hour to check on me. A coworker even commented, "Does he even know you're here?" That made me feel really uncomfortable. I asked what they were talking about, and he just said everything. And then she says, "We haven't talked about it since, but it's still on my mind. I don't want to come off insecure, but I'm curious as to why I was totally ignored." That's a big one. A conversation between two adults that are opposite sex, that wouldn't get me as much as me feeling like my husband in the same room isn't even acting like I exist. That would be the problem for me. I think you could absolutely carry on a really good conversation for a while with the opposite sex, but that paired with what the coworker said, I think that's why Grace is so heightened, you know?
Is this a chick thing?
I think you would have an issue if you went to Trisha's holiday party, and she was standing in the corner
talking
with
to a
some
coworker
man
for a while?
For 60 minutes, someone's husband for 60 minutes, and you were nothing. You weren't even a blip on the radar. I think you'd have something to say, whether it's snide, but you would confront her about it. And it doesn't even have to be a confrontation. It has to be a conversation, though, because Grace, days later, you're still feeling like that. He needs to know, if I'm somewhere with my wife, she needs to know that I care about her. You know, to not even take your eyes off another woman, somebody else's wife, by the way. I wonder how that guy feels.
Oh, Kim, how would you feel about this if this was you?
I'd be pretty upset.
Yeah.
My husband be getting a talking to.
Wouldn't you wonder, like, what they were talking about? You know, sometimes you have a better connection with other people than you do, you know, others. But to have such an intense conversation, wouldn't you think there's more to it?
Right. I'd be like, what were you talking about?
Yeah.
Why didn't you check on me?
Oh, why don't you check on me? Everything's about me.
Yes, your wife that you went there for her work.
You're there to socialize. Who cares? Well, you guys are reading a lot into this.
For an hour. Trisha would not dig that. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm very scared of my wife. That's why I would never do something like this. You want to just recap this email real quick, please?
Yeah, from Grace, we got it over the weekend. So it's been weighing on her mind. But on Friday, she had their office Thanksgiving party, and her husband was in the corner of this room. All of her coworkers were there, and he was in this deep conversation with one of her coworkers' wife. So they were in 60 minutes just chatting, laughing.
Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid.
I'm not saying
what a
at
monster.
all that you can't have a great conversation with the opposite sex. But when you ignore, she said he ignored her, did not even act like she was even in the room, his wife. And then even led to a coworker saying, and I think that this is what got Grace to write us, but said, "Does he even know you're here?" And I'd be like, oh my God.
Very interesting text messages coming in that I want to get to in a second. But first, let's bring Ariel on the show and get your thoughts on this, Ariel.
Okay. First off, it's her husband. So, like,
yep.
He's going home with her no matter what.
Boom.
And, like, at the end of the day, he's still the husband. So I honestly don't think it should even be a problem.
I would think.
And I'm a female, and I've been married for 5 years.
The first part of your conversation just now, he's going home with her. Yeah. So therefore, he should pay her some attention. You know, I get, you're like, time got away from me. We're just having such a great conversation. But then she said in this this email, I asked what they were talking about. He said everything. That's a little weird. Like, dish.
Ariel, most people are texting in saying, why didn't she join the conversation then? You feel that way?
I mean, if I noticed my husband was talking for a long time, I probably would have joined the conversation.
And she absolutely could have.
But I just don't think it's an issue because I feel like maybe there's some trust issues going on that's not being spoken about.
Maybe.
Okay.
Good call on that. Good call on that. Hey, I appreciate you checking in this morning. I hope you have a great day.
You too, bye.
Yeah, happy holidays. So this happened to us. I'd barely taken this job. We were here maybe a year. And, like if your husband or wife takes another job, it takes a while for you to get to know their coworkers, right?
Yeah.
We had been invited to a wedding of one of our coworkers. And we get to the wedding, and it's in a little town 40 miles out, right? So we make the journey. We get there, sit down at a table with a bunch of our other coworkers, and one of my dude coworkers and he doesn't work here anymore. He goes, hey. And we're waiting. And I don't know if it took forever from them to get to the church, to the reception, or if they were bar hopping or whatever.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the wedding party, waiting. And they hadn't opened the bar yet at the reception. And he goes, hey, I got a 12-pack of beer in my truck. You want to go have one? I go, I of course do.
Yeah.
And so I said, Trish, I'll be right back. She's sitting there having a conversation with two other female coworkers here that she knew. And one beer led to two, led to three, led to four.
God.
And time just got away. And I'm like, wait, where are we going? She goes, I sat in there for 45 minutes talking to people I didn't even know, and I'm done with this. I'm like, oh, I just had a beer. And she looks, there's like empty beer cans everywhere.
Wow.
And I go, I'm really, really sorry. Now, this is a solid 16, 17 years ago. And this comes up probably every 3 weeks.
You can't ignore your spouse. You just can't. But you don't have to be babysitting.
I wasn't ignoring. I was
45 minutes without thinking about her.
I was engaging in conversation with another human.
And then you go and lie.
Yeah.
That's what got you in more trouble.
What did I lie about?
That you only had one.
No, well,
you had a pyramid of
I
bottles
had beers.
in the pale
Beers.
moonlight. So I want you to start calling right now. If you have ever been out, we're hot off Black Friday. If you've ever been out during that scenario and you just can't believe what you saw while you were holiday shopping. You're like, people are acting a fool. Look at this man living his best life. They woke up on Black Friday, my mom and dad. She bribed him with McDonald's breakfast because that was the only way to get him out of the house and get him they went to Home Depot. They had a huge doorbuster deal with everybody got a dollar poinsettia. So my mom has like 80. She has 80 poinsettias around her house.
Festive. I like that.
It's crazy. But then they went in and got some kind of like drill that she needed for stuff she doesn't do. I don't know. But then she said that they went in back because they're looking for a new refrigerator for my sister.
Okay.
And they were looking all around, and this guy was standing in front like this, in front of one of those smart refrigerators.
He's guarding it?
That tell you, hey, you're out of eggs, and then it'll write it on the front of your fridge on the screen or whatever. And there were like a couple of other people that were peeping it. And I hope he knows, like, you can probably order another one.
It probably was the floor model and it was discounted. He was probably getting a couple $100 off that thing. He was guarding it.
Yeah. She said it was wild because he was sending out without saying it, get the away from me. This is mine. And other people were looking at it. But to have your arms crossed, like just like a big gorilla, like just sitting there guarding your goods, that is crazy to me. To think that people go.
You never been in a shopping altercation?
No, Derek was showing Liam the 1989 footage of how Black Friday used to be.
Well, like Tickle Me Elmo was big or something like that.
And like the stomping over people's heads just to get these dolls. Outrageous.
I've never, we did our show from the mall for years and years and years. So we were never part of this. We saw a lot of it, but we were never part of it. The only time that I've ever had an altercation, my freshman year in college, I wanted to get my mom and dad something. I'm dead broke, right? I got no money. I had honestly gone on. I'd made most of my money playing pool while I was in college, and I had a job. And I'd gone, the balls roll funny for everybody. I'd gone on a cold streak right before Christmas. I was down. I was like no money. And I think I had a credit card that had like $200 on it, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, I got to get my mom and dad something. It's my last day of class. I'm about ready to break out. I think I had a 9 o'clock final, and then my parents were going to pick me up at noon. And so I go to the bookstore. And they had Gustavus dad, Gustavus mom sweatshirts, right? But they were like $80 at the time. And this is back in like 94, 95. And I'm like, I got to get these. And as soon as I go to grab the Gustavus mom one, I get side-ended by a girl.
It's like, no, that's
and
for
she's
mama.
like, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, excuse me, I was right here. Like, I'm trying to be a nice guy about it. She goes, that's mine. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? So I go over and I'm like, all right, well, I got to find something else. So I find a different color. And then I go to the Gustavus dad shirt, like the section with all the men's stuff, and I get the same thing. Another football player comes over, he bounces me, goes, no way, that's mine. I'm like, what is going on here? It's 9:00 on like December 20th. Everyone's leaving for finals, and people had lost their friggin' mind in the bookstore. And by the time I really realized, I look around, there's like 200 people in there. And everybody had the same thing. They had a 9 a.m. class or a final, and then they had to get something for their mom or dad because they were picking them up in an hour.
So aggressive.
It was very aggressive. So I'd never been in a big fight around the holidays or anything. And it was always great because my wife would go out with her sister and her aunts, and they would tackle Target or Kohl's or wherever. And they never came back because I think they always pre-gamed a little. So they never came back overly aggressive. They just did enough to take the edge off. And then they would just, fight. But it was what we saw when we were doing shows at the mall. Some of the people who were prepared for fights.
We didn't ever see a brawl or anything like that, but we saw the intensity on people's faces. We have a sales girl that went and did the Fleet Farm. You stand in line, you wait for them to open the doors this past week. And I have never done it either. I just have never had the will to get up that early and hunt for like pillows
and
that
I'm
are
really competitive, but I'm not standing outside in the cold waiting to get in somewhere. Right. And Brian, you've seen this before though?
It acts like it's the last TV and it's $5. You know what I mean? And they start pushing each other. Right. And one guy knocked over the display of the TVs because he was trying to get at the other guy,
and then they break.
Take the TV before he could get it, and they knocked over the whole display of TVs. They kicked him out, and I think the guy was charged with vandalism.
Right.
People need to just be nice.
I think cops are the happiest now that it's not such a battle zone.
Right.
Because, think about all the people you heard getting arrested for fighting, punching, grabbing something you weren't supposed to grab, assaulting people that were working there.
I don't know if it's the same thing right now, but remember when Best Buy would only let 5 people in at a time? Yeah. And then once those 5 were checking out, then they would let in another 5.
Because that's when flat screens got big. Right. And then everybody wanted at the time it was probably a $250 flat screen. Yeah. And it was marked down $250. And that was great for like places like Best Buy to do, because all of a sudden that's what everyone was talking about. Are you going to Best Buy to get the $250 TV? I don't know, but I got to stand in line for 14 days.
Yeah.
Just to create that kind of demand was genius on their part.
I bet this is like the Alien Super Bowl when they get to watch us act crazy. They're like, it's Black Friday. We got to zoom down a little bit and watch these fools.
I'm on my way in this morning. It's early. It's pre 4 a.m. And I hit a stop sign and I look to my left. And across the intersection is a woman just standing on the street corner. Dim light. And I just rolled down my window. There's nobody else around. I didn't see another car. And I said, are you okay? Is everything all right? She goes, yeah, I'm just hanging out. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever just hung out. Like, if you're a smoker, you probably just hang out.
Yeah.
But
have a smoke, but you're also on a mission to have a smoke.
I've always had a place to go.
Yeah.
Like, I've never just been, like, if I'm going to hang out, I'm going to sit at home, or I'm going to be like outside enjoying the sun just by myself. Mm-hmm. But I've never just hung out on a corner. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're waiting for someone, you at least look like you have a purpose, or you'd say, yeah, I'm just waiting for a friend.
Right.
And she's just like, no, I'm just hanging out. And I'm like, this is odd. So it started making me think about what are things that you could do during the day that are completely normal. Nobody would bat an eye. But all of a sudden you're doing them at night or early in the morning. And people are like, you okay? Everything all right?
Maybe hunting for agates. Like we have some neighbors that not in my development, but like as you drive to my development, that are always on the hunt.
And what do you get out of an agate? Is it valuable?
I don't know, because there's that huge agate hunt. Like, what do people do with them?
I would hunt for gold or money.
Yeah.
Agates.
What is the value of an agate? But that would look really weird because you can't really see in the dark unless you have a light.
Right. You got one of the headlights.
Yeah.
That would be all right. Some of the texts coming in, driving an ice cream truck.
Yes. That's a bit sus.
If you're driving the ice cream truck and it's dark out, like I'm talking middle of the morning, you're on the hunt for the wrong kind of people, I think. Mm-hmm. Some of the other ones coming in, looking in binoculars.
Okay. Nobody's ever up to any good unless you're on a case. Looking through.
My dad always used to say, nothing good happens past midnight.
Yeah. How about watering your grass?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will start your sprinklers. But if you're out there with the hose,
Right.
you're saying,
Yeah.
that's a bad one. Somebody else said holding a doll, innocent in the daytime, unnerving.
Only by a child. Like
the
an
darkness.
adult cannot stand there and hold the arm of a doll and not spark somebody wondering what's
even
going
during
on.
the day, you probably pull out your phone and take a picture of that. If somebody's holding a doll during the day.
Yeah.
But at night, if you're just standing there holding a doll, no matter what, even if it's a kid, it's weird. Somebody else said pushing a stroller. Adorable with a baby. Terrifying at night.
Yeah. My cousin's kid could only sleep with motion. I felt so bad for my cousin. She was like, yeah, we literally go on walks around our neighborhood all hours of the night.
Those little swing sets weren't
1
enough.
a.m. No, they needed like the motion of the wheels and the crackling of the gravel below the wheels. I'm like,
Somebody else said
No.
hanging up laundry.
Yep, that'd be a bit weird.
Blowing bubbles. Joyful in the daylight, oddly eerie when it's in the dark.
I'm thankful that my body knows when it's nighttime and it's like time to go. But last night had a bit of insomnia. And I'm like, is this what people with insomnia
It's that
deal with?
Sunday night thing where you just start thinking about your week and what do you got to get done.
I don't have the Sunday scaries at all, but it was weird because normally I can just power down, go to bed, and then wake up with my alarm. But I can't even imagine living that life of insomnia.
Jason on Facebook is a different type of human.
Okay.
What's one thing that would be creepy or weird at night but completely acceptable during the day? He said vacuuming my driveway.
Yeah.
What?
You see, Andrew said sun tanning. Did you say?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Moon tanning.
Kelsey said mowing the lawn, obviously if you do it at night. And then my favorite is Andy said visiting gravestones. If you do it during the day, respectable.
Yeah.
If you're doing it at 3:15 at night, you're probably going through something.
Mm-hmm.
What's something else that you see during the day and you're like, you don't even bat an eye, but you see at night and you're like, something's up. Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the X coming up December 21st. Would you like to go for free? More tickets at 7:05 Tuesday during our live show. Think about that and set an alarm to win those as we finish up the podcast.
My mom's friend who she would teach with over in Tokyo every single summer, she stays in contact. And this woman lives in Wisconsin for like a half a year and then goes to LA like a snowbird type of thing.
Sure.
But she was telling my mom about how she's had this 4 or 5 year journey not feeling well and nobody can diagnose her with what she had. And finally, they think that they've tracked it down to, is it Guillain-Barré? Is that how you say it?
I don't know.
Guillain-Barré?
I've never heard that before.
Who has it? Oh, who's the porn star? Blonde.
Jenna Jameson?
Yes, Jenna Jameson.
How
has
did I
it.
know that?
I don't know. Well, she's kind of like the most famous one, but she has it. And it's
What
where
is it?
it attacks your immune system, and some of the symptoms like your legs and your feet can like get really swollen, tingly, sharp nerve pain. I don't know if it can mimic muscular dystrophy almost. So maybe
finally
they
figured it out. Huh?
looked into that. Hopefully they figured it out, because when you can narrow down the symptoms to what, are so common to each of those, like a syndrome or disease like that, then it's easier to treat. But that has to be so frustrating. Cancer, pretty detectable.
Well, when
once
my
they
wife
can
was
narrow
trying
it
to get
down.
diagnosed, and we knew there was something wrong, and she started seeing doctors immediately, we knew something was wrong, and they originally diagnosed her with MS, and then
Okay.
sent her home and said, we'll schedule a biopsy, but it's probably MS. And I'm like, immediately I thought that's the most irresponsible thing.
Right.
Like, it's just better to leave somebody with, hey, we're going to get a biopsy scheduled. It's going to be all right. Right. You leave them with that.
Yeah.
Versus coming in and it was even a nurse practitioner. It's like, yeah, probably MS, but we'll dig a little bit deeper. And my wife's just stunned. And then we go in, we get the biopsy, and they're like, well, it's this. And I think we're going to be able to beat it. And I was like, wow, that's such a better diagnosis than, hey, it's this, live with it,
Yeah.
but we'll check it out. Like, that seemed very irresponsible to me.
Oh my God. Yeah, I just can't imagine what she was going through for how many years. Nobody could give her an answer. Now it looks like she'll have like physical therapy. She's got to get IV drips, plasma exchanges, I guess. Going to be kind of expensive. I
My
would assume.
son, before he got his diagnosis for type 1 diabetes, he had been diagnosed with like 5 other things by our doctor, and they had never tested for diabetes. And I mean, we're going through all these things, and it never got better, never got better, never got better. They even said at one point, it was probably stress. And he was in high school. You know what I mean? And he was a hockey player. And she's like, it's probably just stress from practices and maybe malnutrition. He's like, there's no nutrition. I can't keep anything down.
Right.
And it eventually, ended up in the ER. And then we had and it was crazy because we had a traveling doctor this guy was an Air Force doctor. And then he would spend his time just traveling across the country in ERs. He was like a triage specialist. And he walks in right away and he goes, I think I got this. And like, what? And he goes, all the symptoms are pointing towards this. I go, you just diagnosed that in 12 seconds by looking at his chart. And we had a doctor that couldn't diagnose this for 3 months.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, it happens. It flies under the radar. And like, he wasn't going to badmouth another doctor, but you could tell he was like, how do you not recognize this? Why isn't this one of the, all the symptoms are on paper and one doctor can diagnose it, but another can't.
Right.
That was crazy to me.
Delilah just texted, our daughter has Russell Silver syndrome, took a while to diagnose. And then she said it affects your motor and speech delays. The majority of people with RSS have normal intelligence. So that would be hard because you're like, I know there's something underlying here with my child. I want to make it better for them. But what is it so we can start treating? So have you ever had something happen, or maybe currently right now, it's taking forever for someone to diagnose you with?
Yeah, let's get your story. Thanks for rolling with us. I really appreciate you. I want to bring Gabby on the show real quick. Hi, Gabby. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you calling this morning. We were talking about Kat's mom, who has a friend that she taught in Tokyo with, and Kat's mom would spend like every year for a couple of months, right? Teaching English as a second language.
Yeah, for like a decade and a half. And so she made a really cool bond with this woman. They'd always go back and see each other every summer. And this woman's like, yeah, for the past like 4 years now, I'm like wondering what's going on with my body. And they finally realized it was like, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right, Guillain-Barré syndrome, where it's your body is shutting down, your legs.
So it's
fatigue.
An autoimmune kind of deal?
Yes. And so, but finally we have a name for it, hopefully. So.
And tell us about your mom, Gabby. It took them how long to figure out that she had cancer?
A little over a year.
Oh, man.
First they diagnosed her with a disease that's not even in the United States.
Oh.
Okay.
She's never even left the country.
Okay.
And then it came to ulcers, which she never had. And then we took her to a different hospital, and they diagnosed her with a rare stomach cancer.
Wow. And so did they explain how they came to the conclusion for the other ones, or were they just similar things?
They did not.
They're like, we're just going to throw stuff at the wall.
Yeah.
Wow.
They kept doing
That's kind of what they did.
Colonoscopies, and then finally they figured it out?
Yes. After we took her to a different oncologist or a different doctor in a different town, it took them 2 days to figure it out after running blood work and tests. And
yeah. So how's mom now? Did she get the treatment she needed?
She passed away 7 years ago.
Okay.
6 months after they diagnosed her.
Oh my God.
So do you look back now, and I'm assuming you're like, hey, if this doctors would have got it right away, she had a much better chance?
She probably would have, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
And this goes to show, and I think this happens in I think you referenced it, small town America a lot. You go to your local physician, and you'll just kind of believe them because they're a doctor. But this is like a perfect example of get your second and third opinions on everything because, doctors are human, right? They're all going to see it a little bit differently, and maybe they don't have the technology that's spread to a little town that could be at a bigger facility.
I had a friend that once did not want to get a second opinion because she liked her doctor and didn't want her doctor to take offense. Bad if it's a good doctor, they will not care. They would actually, I've had doctors encourage me to go see another doctor. That's a good doctor. So I'm sorry that was
going on with my daughter now.
Oh no.
And is what mom had genetic? Is that
They don't think so, but I like to keep an eye on it. My daughter has some stomach issues as well.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure all that out, and I think I've seen like 3 doctors for her, and she's 3.
Are they all coming up with the same diagnosis, kind of, or are they all just stumped?
Kind of. They're not sure if she's lactose intolerant or gluten intolerant, but they can't do anything about it since she's too young to do any biopsies for.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
So we have to wait a few more years.
Well, hang in there. We appreciate. Yeah, that's got to be very frustrating as a mom, just to be, look at your little kiddo and they're not doing well, and you're like, what can we do for them? So hang in there. We appreciate you sharing with us, though. I hope you have a great morning, Gabby.
Yeah, you too.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
So I think we average in our house maybe 2 spider sightings a year, which I can live with. Before it was none. And then I'll see one and I'm like, where there's one, there's probably a nest. And then in my head, I'm like, burn this place down. Can't handle it. This guy I went to high school with, his name is Jeff. He just went to the ER this weekend. Venomous spider bite. They live in Minnesota. They live like Andover.
Venomous?
Venomous. Look at how heated up his hand is.
Yeah, what venomous spiders live here?
Black widow,
No.
brown recluse, parson, which is like a medium size, but I had to look this up. Wolf spider, and then the common house spider. All spiders are venomous. It just depends on how far in those fangs can go.
Well, and how your body reacts
and
to
how
it,
your body
obviously,
reacts. But cripes, look at that.
I got a spider bite. We were staying at my brother and sister-in-law's, and I got a spider bite. This is a month or 2 ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it till I got out of the shower, and my wife goes, my God, what is that on your arm? And it was on the underside of my bicep.
Yes.
And she's like, I bet you got bit by a spider last night. And I was like, I've never been bitten by a spider before. And it puffed up to the size of maybe a dime.
Yeah.
And it was a little itchy, but I mean, obviously my body kicked it out right away. But that guy's that's a big bite, and that's all pussy and everything like that. I wonder if it started messing with his heart.
I know. Well, but he probably got really, the fever started to set in, and you're like, I got to rush to the hospital. I just can't even wrap my mind around that.
So something like that, if you've got a compromised immune system or you're an old person and not active,
you're dead.
That could take you out.
Yeah. It's just like arachnophobia. Those are black widows that target people.
It's weird that you talk about this because I just bought 10 new mouse traps.
Yeah.
The people that own the place before us, they have mouse traps everywhere, but they're the ones where the mice climb in them and then they would die in there, right? Or
they can't get back out.
Right, they can't get back out.
Okay.
But there's 15 of them all across our property, and not one of them has a mouse in it or a skeleton in it.
Oh.
And I was like, and we're in the middle of nowhere right now. I mean, we are literally in the middle of nowhere. And we haven't had a spider there or a mouse in 6 months. But when we were living in town, I would get 30 a year.
Well, you were surrounded by woods still.
Yeah, but I mean, why don't the mice like my new house?
I don't know. Maybe there's just something about it. They don't like that you brought the cow picture with you.
Yeah, maybe, right?
The emo cow.
Yeah.
You should get what my cousin Stephanie has. We went to her brand new house down by Cannon Falls, and she has a room, her storage room, and it has this high-pitched owl sound. Before. And I'm like, what is that noise? That is driving me crazy. And she said it keeps the mice away.
It's the same as, do those deer things work? Do you remember, probably when you were in high school, you noticed it, but people would have, I remember all the kids in the country would have these little things and they snapped on or they glued onto the grill of your vehicle.
Uh-huh.
And when the wind went through it, it would make a high-pitched noise that we can't hear. But apparently it scared deer away.
Really?
Yeah, you never seen these before?
No, I didn't.
I would be interested if anybody sees these, still has them, number one. But then number two, if they even work, because the only time I noticed it, I had a friend, her name was Erin in high school. And when we were a senior, I mean, she lived way out in the boonies, and she hit a deer on the way to work, or on the way to school. And it didn't wreck her car, just kind of dented it a little bit.
Oh, you can still buy them on Amazon.
Yeah.
A deer whistle.
Yeah. And she, we go to look at her car, during a free period. And I was like, how bad is it? And then I noticed she had 2 of these things on her front grill.
Didn't even work.
And I go, those things obviously didn't work.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing them on all the kids that lived in the country when I was in high school. But I haven't seen one in years. But you say you can buy them right away?
Yeah.
How much?
They're on Amazon. Let me click on here.
They probably can't work.
$7.59.
Of course they don't work. For $8, why wouldn't everybody have one?
And that's
on
a 2-pack.
You should see these on semis all up and down.
Yeah.
If they really worked, right? If they're going to scare the deer away.
They're very, very small. And you just put them on the grill of your car?
Yeah, or you put them on the front bumper or something like that. And they're supposed to make this high-pitched sound that scare the deer away.
I would think it can't hurt. I would think it's worth it if you live how you white knuckle in every single day worried about deer.
I would be interested to see if anybody has these on their vehicle and if you ever hit a deer with them, because like I said, the only time I really ever noticed them on someone's vehicle, she had hit a deer. But same thing with the mouse. I've seen the high frequency things you plug in.
Yeah.
It's supposed to keep all the mice away. But I'm like, if they're hungry, they're going to go past it. Like if you were playing old school country music really, really loud at Chipotle, I would still go in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're hungry, you're still going in.
The risk is worth the reward for that
And
one.
if you're a mouse or a spider, I don't know if this stuff even works.
I try not to shop during the show, but I do have Amazon up. Need the deal on these Boost Oxygens.
Oh, you don't need those.
So my friend Melissa is currently out in Winter Park right now, and her family, huge avid skiers, her husband, massive skier. So they're out there, and she said, just a quick message to you guys. Altitude is very high here. Get some mini pocket bottles of Boost Oxygen.
I would say the only way you're going to need those, you're in good health. You're fine. If you are...
I feel like I have long COVID, though.
God.
That is a real thing. To scoff at that, people deal with the long COVID.
When you go up the stairs here, do you get winded?
No, but
Okay, then you're fine.
this is totally different than being miles and miles above sea level.
It's fine.
I don't want to be stuck in that position.
I was in
a little
Colorado
mini one, but will I look like a
2 years
nerd?
ago on some of the biggest hills, and zero problem.
I do want to pick some up for Liam has asthma. So
There,
that's
I would do that.
okay.
I don't think that's a horrible... You can buy them there. Yeah, I wouldn't travel with them.
Can they go on plane? They can go on planes.
I know,
Of course
but
they
you can
can.
buy them there, and then you know how many you need.
Wouldn't that be expensive? What if I just
They're
get
gonna
it?
Get you a couple dollars more. It's
Amazon
like
here.
buying a Coke in Vegas. It's like,
I don't
$2 more.
I would love to know if people have had to go on trips where they had to like prepare for that stuff.
Like if you go to Nepal, I get
Right.
it. But I mean, Colorado, people fly in and out of there every day.
Or if you go to a foreign country and have to get like certain shots.
That
you know what I
routine
mean?
of if you go to my daughter's roommate is spending J term in India
And you have to get
as part of her
certain
business. And she
immunizations
got
for it?
there's 70 immunizations. And they say the first week you're there,
Yeah.
you just get used to being sick.
God, that's no way to live
I
unless
know.
you are going to be there for a while, then you'll get over it. But if I were to only go for a week somewhere like that and you're sick the whole time, is that even worth
They're there for
going?
the better part of a month, maybe 3 weeks. And I mean, they get to see Taj Mahal and they get to do a lot of stuff. And it's more of like a business club kind of deal. Like she's a business major. And apparently they had started like an online business thing with students that are in India that are at a graduate level there. And they're going to meet all these people and put together like their business plans while they're in India.
Okay.
And that's where the credits come from in the J term. But she had to get a series, I think it was 17 different immunizations just to go to India for 3 weeks.
And I would say if you're going to do mission work somewhere far away for a while, obviously love where your heart's at, but that's wild to prepare.
It's easy for us to talk about how bad our food is here and all the preservatives and all the additives and everything like that until you got to go somewhere else. And then you realize, whoa, you can't drink the water. You can't eat the food. It's going to mess you up.
There's a lot of thinking involved when you go and travel abroad. Some people think feeling cute might go somewhere foreign and not mind the rules. You're going to have, what is it, Montezuma's Revenge or... We had somebody go to Mexico with us that was woke up in the middle of the night, had one of the cotton mouth from drinking all day, scarfed down buckets of water, and he was out for days.
I'm a fan of not necessarily eating the seafood at places we go that are abroad.
I will always do that.
But I think that's where you get into trouble, number one. But then number two, when you add a dangerous amount of alcohol to it within a couple of short hours.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? What do you do once you're boozed up? You'll eat anything. If it's cooked, if it's raw, if it's on the beach, you'll eat
So you're not going to
anything.
try fresh ceviche now that you know what ceviche tastes like? You're going to get it fresh at Shady's and
I'll get it
next
from,
to the ocean?
I'll get it from Lee at Shady's, but I don't know if I'm
Not
going to get
saying
it
that's not
freshly
delicious and
caught.
fresh, but-
I don't roll the dice, man.
You sound so ignorant right now.
Until you're on the you-know-water for how long?
I eat ceviche every year when we go.
Where's Kat today? She's on the crapper again. She couldn't leave the shower.
Never.
She just leaves the shower running because she craps herself all the time. I ain't into that. That sounds like a horrible vacation.
Oh, look at that, Spencer. I had to get anthrax shots and smallpox before I went to Afghanistan.
I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anthrax, you don't mess with that. I mean, and the smallpox, that'll get you too.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of shots that you just don't want to avoid. I mean, I'm not projecting here or anything. I'll question most of it. But if I'm like, hey, I'm going to Nepal, and my doctor's like, you got to get these 15 shots or you might die, then I'm probably getting them.
Yeah. Good idea.
I don't know if you guys need the oxygen, though. For Liam, it's probably not a horrible idea. During this conversation, I just bought them all.
I just said add to cart, buy.